Hello, good morning everyone. Welcome back to the Women's Tribunal of Malaysia. We will wait for a while attendees join in. Selamat pagi semua dan selamat datang lagi. Selamat kembali ke hari kedua Tribunal Wanita Malaysia. Kita akan bermula pada pukul 9.30. Mungkin boleh bantu untuk mengingatkan rakan-rakan untuk join kita pada pagi ini. Kembali ke hari kedua Tribunal Wanita Malaysia. Bagi yang baru saja join kita pada hari ini, selamat datang. Saya juga ingin mengucapkan selamat pagi dan selamat datang kepada mereka yang menonton melalui Facebook Live. Hello, selamat datang. Teruskan kongsikan Women's Tribunal ini kepada rakan-rakan dan keluarga. Kita akan bermula sebentar lagi pada pukul 9.30 pagi. Sebagai pengetahuan bagi yang di sini bersama kita melalui Zoom, Zoom ini menggunakan mode webinar. Oleh itu, hanya panelis akan dapat membuka kamera dan membuka audio sekiranya diperlukan. Dalam Zoom ini juga kita menyediakan penterjemahan dalam bahasa Inggeris dan juga bahasa Malaysia. Sekiranya ingin memilih bahasa yang ingin anda dengar, bolehlah pergi ke interpretation button yang ada di bawah sebelah kanan Zoom, ya. Apabila memilih bahasa yang anda ingin, mohon untuk pilih juga mute original audio agar dapat mendengar penterjemahan dengan jelaslah. Terima kasih. Morning again, and welcome back to day 2 of the Women's Tribunal. Hello to our friends who are watching through our Facebook live stream, and please continue to share our link so that more and more people, we can reach out to more people to join us in our Women's Tribunal. For your information, for those who are joining us through Zoom, this Zoom will be using the webinar mode. Therefore, only the panelists will be able to turn on their camera as well as their audio when they are needed to. And we also provide interpretation for throughout the whole tribunal. So you may choose whether you'd like to listen in Bahasa Malaysia or English. Just go on to the Zoom function, the interpretation function on Zoom on the lower right bar of your Zoom screen. If you select your preferred language, either in Bahasa or in English, please mute the original audio so you can have a clear sound of the interpretation that you choose. Thank you. We will start shortly at 9:30 a.m. welcome everyone to day 2 of the Women's Tribunal. We will wait for a few more minutes, maybe about 3 minutes, to allow more attendees to join in. Hello also to our friends on Facebook live stream. It will be very nice if you can share out the link to the Facebook stream. Thank you very much. We will start in 2 minutes. Before that, I'd like to remind that there is interpretation for this tribunal. So if you'd like to listen to your preferred language, you can choose the interpretation icon on Zoom and select the preferred language. And then for clearer interpretation, please select mute original audio. Thank you. Hello, good morning everybody. Welcome back to day 2 of the Women's Tribunal Malaysia. Selamat kembali ke Tribunal Wanita Malaysia. For those who have just joined us today, we welcome you. And today we continue with day 2. And for a recap, we actually have prepared a video for you. This video is prepared by Praveen Premnath, who is the Secretariat of the Women's Tribunal. Let us watch the video together.
I would like to begin by saying that I feel honored to be here with you today at this opening of the Women's Tribunal. Let me begin by expressing my admiration to Shanti Daryam, a great friend of mine. She has been a mentor for me, and she has also been a member of the CEDAW committee, and her wisdom has always been appreciated by the global women's human rights movement. And thank you, Shanti, for continuing to fight for women and girls' rights.
In the year 2000, in December, we convened a women's tribunal in Tokyo. At that time, one of the organizations I was working with was the Korean Council for the Women Drafted for Military Sexual Slavery by Japan. The official name of the Tokyo Tribunal is a long one, Women's International War Crimes Tribunal for the Trial of Japan's Military Sexual Slavery. We call it Tokyo Tribunal. The Tokyo Tribunal was organized by the concerted efforts of women's movement organizations in 10 countries, including both North and South Korea, Japan, Taiwan and China, the Philippines, Indonesia, East Timor and the Netherlands, as well as Malaysia. We have prepared for the tribunal for almost 3 years. Altogether, 1,100 people gathered in the Fudangaikang of the Tokyo, including the 64 survivors of the Japanese military sexual slavery. Looking back on it, it was a miracle in every sense. First, it was the largest gathering of the survivors themselves of comfort women system from different countries.
The third and final challenge is an interrogation of our bias, binary social constructs, and limitation of our own understanding on sex and gender. The binary view of sex and gender and their conflation underpin the patriarchal world that we live in. Assumptions and norms set by cisgender heterosexual persons not only shape the idea of who women are and how they should be, but also the rights and opportunities that are made available to them at any given time. All women, be they cisgender, transgender, intersex, or others, are women. Let us bear this in mind as we move through the tribunal.
Malay students started bullying the orang asli. They said all sorts of things like orang asli like eating pork, frog, monkey, and other things. Angrily, I said, why do you like mocking other races? I said, orang asli never mock the Malays. Why do the Malays need to mock my race? I was angry and went to the discipline teacher. The discipline teacher met with the Malay student who liked to mock the orang asli. The students were given counseling. After that, the number of Malay students who mock orang asli reduced because they had been reprimanded.
The emotional and mental impact on me has been so bad that I feel like my quality of life has completely deteriorated. I cannot rely on the law or the police for protection.
I'd like Shakila, you're brave. What you did is brave, and it's very brave of you to come before us also.
Thank you, Praveen, for that video. Still with us today, we are very happy to have our honorable judges, Mary Shanti Dairiam, Zaina Anwar, and Nadia Malyana. On behalf of the Women's Tribunal, we would also like to take this opportunity to thank everyone's effort in sharing this event within your circle and with your community. Our social media shows tremendous likes and support. We would also like to request that you continue to share this event so that we can reach out to as many people as we can. Not to forget, we also have the Kebahagiaan Dirimu Arts Festival tomorrow on the 29th November at 8:30 p.m. Please do join us celebrating women's empowerment and advocacy through music, art, and poetry. Without keeping you any longer, we shall now proceed to the fourth round of witnesses. Today, we have 11 testimonies, and they will be sharing their testimonies with us live. Do stay with us for the rest of the day. We also have exciting and compelling statements from our advocates on the second half of the day. For now, let us start with listening to the testimonies. Here is a small reminder to our witnesses to speak slowly to allow our interpreters to be able to translate the testimonies. Thank you very much. We shall now start with the fourth round of witnesses. The first witness for today is witness number 16, and her name is Sarasvati Muthu, and she is from Ipoh, Perak. Sarasvati works in a National Union of Workers, and she is here with us live. She'll be sharing her testimony on women's workers' rights. Let's welcome Sarasvati to share her testimony. Hi, Saras.
Good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for this great event, and thank you for the organizing team. I am Saraswati Muthu, Executive Secretary of National Union of Workers in Hospital Support and Allied Services. I started working with workers in the 1990 at the height of privatization. I see many impacts of privatization of workers and women workers, especially the B40 or working class women from then until now. Since the privatization of government hospital support and allied services in mid-1997, all cleaners who worked directly under the government before became contract workers of contractors appointed by the Ministry of Health. So before becoming contract workers, all these workers enjoy all the facilities like pay increment, annual leave, housing allowances, transport allowance, and they even get government study loan and housing loan. But now, after contracting out, they lose all the benefits. Now we have about 50,000 cleaners in government hospitals and clinics nationwide. And more than 85% are women workers. This kind of work is dominated by women because people think cleaning is a women's job. In general, the workers are vulnerable in many ways. They are mostly B40 women, single mother, sole breadwinners, and have had less formal education. They are being exploited and their rights are denied due to the fixed term contract, which does not guarantee job security. These concessionaire companies outsource the cleaning services to subcontractors for 2 years. Their organizational structure is in Perak, Penang, Kedah, and Perlis. They are their parent company. Then they have main contractor who has signed with the health ministry, and then they give out to subcontractors. This is the organizational structure. So the parent company and main company hide behind them. This causes the subcontractors to offer a work contract for periods of 6 months, a year, and 2 years to the workers. Every time the contractor offers a work contract, they treat the worker as a new employee. The workers are denied their employment rights, such as salary increment, annual leave, yearly bonus, and other benefits. And they even cannot apply for loan as they are contract workers because the banks don't give them even housing loan. This cycle continues every 1 or 2 years, and the workers are in a peculiar situation where they have worked continuously in the same hospital, doing the same task for years, but offered a new employment contract every certain period without a break in their service. It is clear that the nature of the job is a permanent employment, but the concessionaire companies have dressed up the job as a seasonal job. This is modern slavery. This is what we say, modern slavery. This situation affects all workers. However, women workers are particularly vulnerable because they become bonded laborers. I would say they become bonded laborers. There are cleaners who have worked for more than 20 years and their salaries are stuck at minimum wage of RM 1,002. If the government didn't increase, their wage is low, very, very low. And they've been working for more than 20 years. Are stuck at minimum wage 1,002, and they have been given only 8-day annual leave if the contract changes. For example, these women workers suffer. By the 10th of every month, they have no money to fill their petrol for a motorbike, to pay their children's school fees, even to buy food, to pay medical fees. They have to borrow money from their employer or friends or relatives to pay these expenses and repay back on the next pay. It becomes a circle of debt which they can't get away from. So that's why we are saying they're bonded slave. According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia in the year 2020, Malaysian national poverty line income is RM2208 per month. But compared to 1,002, the national poverty line income is 2208. Cleaners are forced to live with minimum wage of Malaysian ringgit 1,002, and they live in debt and poverty. The families on the age study by UNICEF and UNFPA shows more households headed by females are among B20 households at the national level. In addition, the state of households 2018, different realities by Gazana Research Institute shows between 2014 and 2016, households with monthly income below RM5,000 were forced to cut back on consumption of food despite spending more money on it. Bank Negara Malaysia's Capability and Inclusion Survey 2015, on the hand, shows 3 in 4 Malaysians find it a challenge to raise RM1,000 of immediate cash money for emergencies, BNM 2016, and about 1 in 3 Malaysians can only cover a week's worth of expenses. At most, should they lose their source of income. The families on the age study finds among female heads of household, only 5 in 100 have enough saving to last more than 3 months. Meanwhile, about 2 in 5 children, especially children from female headed households, have insufficient equipment to enable e-learning. So we can see, compared to the study, and the workers, cleaners are earning 1,002, though they are working for more than 20 years. Besides, out of concessionaire companies, we have 5 concessionaire companies in Malaysia who have taken contract from Health Ministry, Perak, Penang, Kedah, Perlis, 1 concessionaire, Selangor, Pahang, Terengganu, Kelantan, 1 concessionaire, and Melaka, Negeri Sembilan, and Johor, another concessionaire, and Sabah and Sarawak. So we have 5 concessionaires have taken all up. Out of 5, 4 are GLC company. They should be a role model in protecting workers' rights, but they are also the one who started the contract system in the support service sector of the government hospitals. And they implement all kind of laws. You know, even though the union now has a CA, the union was formed in 1997, but it is only activated in 2016. In 2019, we had the first CA signed, but when a new company took over in 2020, they completely denied to recognize the union, though it's a national union, and they bring in all kind of work, like before the workers work from 7 to 3, now they've increased the working hour from 7 to 4, and 3 to 11, they increase to 2 to 11 without the consent of the workers. So they do it everything according to their wish. Nobody to question, though there's a national union. This practice of contracting and subcontracting permanent and long-term work is wrong in law, as it is in violation of the Employment Act 1955. It is illegal and ultra-virus the constitution of the country which guarantees the right to livelihood under Article 5 of Federal Constitution. For the past 30 years, I have been defending workers and women workers' rights. Working with union, I faced a number of harassment from employers and also police. Employer would tarnish my reputation by saying I'm not a trustable person to the worker and warn workers of interacting with me like I'm a criminal, because under this one contractor, there are 33 hospitals in Perak, Penang, Kedah, and Perlis. So they will tarnish my name, so they were very hard for us to communicate with them. At the same time, when I comment on the violation of women workers, employers will try to silence me with legal action. They have used the news report in which I comment about union busting in court and wanted the court to give an order to stop me from talking about union busting in public. This extremely affected our advocacy work. When we stand together with the women workers and protest with them, authorities arrest us, mistreat us in lockup. I have been to many protests with women workers in the past 30 years. At least half were met with harassment by the police. In the recent protest that we organized in one of the government hospitals in Perak to protest the lack of protection of hospital cleaners during the COVID pandemic, 4 other union activists and I were arrested by the police. We were forced into one Black Maria with no social distancing. Here we were arrested because of the COVID pandemic, we have to follow the SOP. So we strictly follow SOP and we protested. But when we were arrested and put into Black Maria, there's no social distancing. We were handcuffed and the police shouted at us, "Oi, jangan bising lah, gampang. Bising macam binatang. Duduk diam-diam." We were forced to change to the lockup attire while the changing room door was open. One of the women union activists is diabetes patient, and she is not given water to take a medicine. Forced to bathe using a small dirty towel, and one of the policemen used abusive words to threaten us. This is all because we are defending women workers' rights, and they think they can bully us. B40 women workers are one of the most suffered and vulnerable groups in Malaysia. In the cleaning industry, we can see how they suffer. The cleaners are the backbone of the health industry. Without the cleaners, the health is gone. So this is what we are saying. They are the prime workers. You know, the cleaners are the prime workers. During pandemic, they were forced to work beyond hours, 18 hours. They have to do all kind of work while many people are stay away from the COVID pandemic. But these cleaners, no, they will work. But till today, they don't get COVID allowance. It's very, very disgusting. You know, they are working in a government hospital, under the Ministry of Health, but they're not given COVID allowance. So in the cleaning industry, we can see how they suffer, and I hope we can abolish all the contract system to protect our sisters, and we want the government to absorb these workers. They are the backbone of this industry. They are the prime workers. They want the government to absorb them. So, so what we are trying to say, not only the health is prioritized, there are also school cleaners, other cleaners in the government department, all of them are suffering the same fate. So this is very important for our, don't hide. The big companies don't hide. You practice, you have to show they have the social obligation because they're GLC company. They have social obligation to safeguard the workers and who are the backbone of the health industry. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak this important forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Long live pekerja, long live workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Saras, for sharing your testimony. I'd like to now invite the panel of judges for questions and comments to Sarasvati.
Well, Saras, thank you so much for bringing public attention and our attention to this long-standing discrimination and exploitation, just gross exploitation of workers, and in this particular case, hospital cleaners. It's really, really hard to believe that the government until today has not made any demands on basic labor rights to be established by these concessionaires. Yeah, and especially these are GLC, as you said, these are GLC owned companies who have benefited from the government's privatization policy. I think it's outrageous, simply outrageous, that someone who has worked for over 20 years is still earning 1,200 minimum wage, yeah? Because, as you said, of this exploitative fixed-term contract system that has to be abolished. What do you think, what will it take for these companies, these concessionaires, to change for the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Human Resources to really begin to take action to end this exploitation? Because obviously your union has taken so many actions, right? Picketing, court cases, protests, organizing, only to be faced with union busting by the concessionaires. I'm just wondering whether internationalizing the issue, linking up with international unions, because cleaners all over the world are exploited, and there is an international union, internationalizing the issue and shaming Khazanah National, the GLCs, and the government at the international level. Would that help? What do you think needs to take place to move this forward? Because it's just so frustrating for us as well, listening. It simply cannot go on.
And when the union become active, I told you it was dormant for, formed in 1997, dormant for 20 years. Then 2016 we took over, and we have sent numerous memorandum to the Health Ministry, to Human Resource Ministry. We put down all the issues, and we told them that stop contract system, because no way, they cannot contract out because of you and the concessionaire. You can see the structure of parent company, then the concessionaire who signed with the Health Ministry, then that fellow gives, but present subcontractor also a GLC company. So we want the government, we already sent the memorandum, but then all went into deaf ears. So we want the forum, we want the government, and also we are planning a motorcycle campaign somewhere in January to tell the government, because women always goes to work by motorbike. So we wanted to campaign. Two things we are demanding. One is abolish contract system and absorb the workers into government, because they enjoy all the benefit. And then we want the COVID allowance. So these are the main objective or main demands we wanted to put forward. It's a nationwide campaign. So that's why we want all the NGOs, the International Labour Organization. Even for the matter, we tried to write to MTUC in early in 2019, the change of leadership, and due to COVID, they say, hold on, already 2 years, like court cases. The case was filed in 2019, and hearing will be only in 2022. By then, the company already started, pressing all the workers, and workers are scared to talk about union. See, so NTUC, the National Umbrella Organization, also delaying by with affiliating us. So by affiliating, by international organization, we have to start a campaign, pressure the government. I think it's very simple, in your fingertip. Workers are suffering under Health Ministry. and the Ministry of Treasury. We have to tell them, stop this nonsense, stop this modern slavery. I think we have sent letters, memorandum. We want all the organization to step in and tell them no to modern slavery. I think this is very important. I hope today's this forum, we can get lobby. We can able to lobby the government strongly so that they can immediately stop this system. And also there are a lot of talk about contract system because these big companies misuse the fixed term contract for their interest, because only for plantation they've given, but they have big lawyers, you know, they are discussing, they're talking, twisting and turning the law, and they're putting the workers of Malaysia in a slavery system to make profit. I think this we cannot stand, we cannot allow this exploitation go on. Thank you.
Saras, I think it's really important. Your energy and your passion is, really critical to continue with the organizing and the increased pressure that needs to be put on. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zaina, and thank you very much again, Sarasvati. We will proceed to the next witness. Saksi yang seterusnya adalah saksi nombor 17 dan nama beliau adalah Puan Rozia binti Muhammad Hashim dan beliau berasal dari Pulau Pinang. Rozia bekerja di Kesatuan untuk Perkhidmatan Pekerja Sokongan Swasta di Hospital Kerajaan. Mari kita bersama-sama mendengar testimoni Puan Rozia. Silakan Puan Rozia. Hai Puan Rozia, boleh tolong unmute? Okey, terima kasih.
Ya, hai, selamat pagi. Nama saya Rozia binti Muhammad Hashim. Saya telah bekerja di Hospital Awam hampir 13 tahun. Saya adalah pengerusi Kesatuan Pekerja Perkhidmatan Sokongan Swasta di Hospital Kerajaan Semenanjung Malaysia. Saya juga adalah seorang ibu tunggal. Sebagai seorang ibu tunggal, kita tiada banyak pilihan kerja. Kebanyakan rakan-rakan saya juga adalah ibu tunggal dan kami pilih kerja ini sebab tak ada peluang kerja lain. Kebanyakannya ibu tunggal berusia 40 tahun ke atas dan memang tiada pilihan kerja lain lah. Kami juga memilih kerja ini sebab boleh bahagikan masa dengan anak-anak dan keluarga. Walaupun gaji yang sedikit, kami tetap terpaksa juga meneruskan kerja ini sebab untuk memenuhi kehidupan, untuk meneruskan kehidupan. Walaupun gaji sedikit, ramai antara kami yang ada dua kerja lah terpaksa. Macam saya, contoh saya mengambil upah menjahit. Ada juga kawan-kawan saya yang terpaksa menyambung kerja sampai 12 jam, sampai 15 jam dengan overtime untuk overtime. Walaupun dah bertahun-tahun kerja, gaji kami tetap masih yang sama dan tiada kenaikan gaji. Jadi kami terpaksalah mencari peluang lain kat luar. Ada yang berniaga kecil-kecilan. Sistem kontrak ini amatlah menjadi halangan kepada kami untuk meneruskan kerja dengan satu meneruskan kerja dengan satu kerja sahaja. Kami terpaksa bekerja macam-macam lah. Sejak saya mula ambil bahagian dalam aktiviti kesatuan, saya selalu dikacau oleh majikan. Ada supervisor yang ugut dan memilih kasih dalam pemberian overtime. Contohnya, kalau you pro company, pro syarikat, you selalu boleh dapat overtime, public holiday atau apa sahaja. Ada juga yang terpaksa bekerja 2-3 lokasi dalam satu hari, di mana limit kami kerja satu hari adalah 650 kaki persegi. Tetapi disebabkan kami terpaksa bekerja 2-3 lokasi, jadi limit keluasan itu boleh bertambah. Tapi dengan gaji yang sikit. Kira syarikat tak tambah kami gaji untuk lokasi yang 2-3 yang kita dah buat. Berbanding dengan pekerja lelaki, pekerja wanita lebih takut untuk melawan apa yang saja arahan daripada supervisor dan pihak syarikat. Sebab kami perlukan kerja, kami perlukan duit. Majikan tak takut sebab pekerja terpaksa bekerja dan tak ada siapa yang untuk membantu kami melawan arahan dan juga tindak penindasan dari syarikat. Kami cebur kesatuan pun banyak halangan. Ada juga ahli keluarga, dapat tantangan dari ahli keluarga. Sebab ada juga suami yang menghalang isteri menceburi kesatuan sebab dia orang cakap company tak iktiraf union, tak iktiraf kesatuan. Macam mana you nak buat? Macam mana you boleh lawan company? Macam tu. Kami juga dilarang, pihak syarikat juga melarang kami adakan aktiviti di hospital. Contohnya macam ada meeting, mesyuarat, kami tak boleh buat di hospital. Walaupun masa rehat hanya sejam, tapi kami akan dipantau. Kebanyakan ahli kesatuan dipaksa untuk tarik diri untuk menyelamatkan, untuk menjaga keharmonian keluarga. Jadi utamakan keluarga atau union, itu sahaja pilihan yang diorang bagi. Jadi kebanyakan ahli adalah wanita dan lemah. Semua orang takut untuk masuk kesatuan. Kesatuan banyak menindas pekerja. Antaranya, orang pernah berkata, siapa masuk ahli kesatuan akan dibuang kerja. Ada juga yang cakap tak dapat kenaikan gaji ataupun tak dapat sagu hati apa-apa. Tapi selama yang kita masuk kesatuan, banyak dah kesatuan yang dapat tolong kita. Contohnya menjedarkan kerja bahawa pentingnya kesatuan untuk menuntut hak-hak pekerja. Dan akhir, sebagai pengerusi kesatuan, saya harap sistem kontrak ini dihapuskan. Ambil balik kami jadi pekerja kerajaan dan hentikan juga pemerasan terhadap kesatuan. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak Puan Rozia. Saya ingin menjemput panel hakim untuk bertanyakan soalan kepada Puan Rozia.
Terima kasih Puan Rozia kerana sudi berkongsi dengan kami pengalaman Rozia sebagai seorang pembersih hospital. Boleh tak Puan Rozia share dengan kami perasaan Puan Rozia dan rakan sepekerja sebagai contract worker di mana tiap-tiap kali sign kontrak baru, dan untuk Puan Rozia tiap-tiap 2 tahun ke, ya, tiap-tiap kali sign kontrak baru dapat gaji yang sama, ya, sebagai pekerja baru. Tak, jadi tak pernah naik gaji dulu dah 13 tahun Puan Rozia kerja tak pernah naik gaji dan selama-lamanya ke tak boleh naik gaji kerana sistem fixed term contract ini?
Ya, betul. Saya rasa tidak puas hatilah sebab tiap kali kontrak ni diperbarui, kita akan ditambah dengan pekerja baru sebab ada pekerja lama yang dah berhenti. Jadi saya rasa pekerja lama lebih banyak lebih kerja lebih perfect dari orang baru. Orang baru pula tak ada training apa-apa kan. Jadi kita pekerja lama yang terpaksa train pekerja baru. Bukan supervisor yang train. Kita sendiri yang kena ajar. Tapi kita gaji sama je. Itu saja.
Ya, kerana berkongsi pengalaman hari ini dan selamat berjuang ya untuk better rights dan protection ya untuk pekerja hospital. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Zaina dan terima kasih lagi Puan Rozia. Saya akan teruskan menjemput saksi yang seterusnya. Saksi kita seterusnya adalah saksi yang ke-18 ya dan beliau akan sertai kita secara langsung melalui Zoom. Nama beliau adalah Tarani Kuti dan beliau berasal dari Perak. Beliau juga bekerja di Kesatuan Perkhidmatan Pekerja Sokongan Swasta di Hospital Kerajaan. Beliau akan berkongsi dengan kita pengalaman dan penindasan yang beliau alami semasa bekerja di Kesatuan Pekerja. Dengan ini, saya ingin menjemput Saudari Tarani untuk memberi perkongsian beliau. Silakan, Tarani. Hai, selamat pagi, Tarani.
Selamat pagi, Kak.
Ya, Saudari boleh teruskan berkongsi testimoni.
Okay, thank you. Nama saya Tarani. Dan saya adalah Exco Kesatuan Pekerja Perkhidmatan Sokongan Swasta di Hospital Kerajaan Semenanjung, Malaysia. Saya telah bekerja di hospital hampir 3 tahun. Pekerja cleaner adalah salah satu golongan yang paling ditindas dan dipandang hina. Orang rasa ini perempuan punya kerja dan ini kerja sangat kotor. Bukan saja dipandang hina, hak kebebasan bercakap, berhimpunan dan persatuan juga disekat. Kami sentiasa menghadapi pemerasahan kesatuan, union, bursting daripada majikan kami antaranya termasuk 1. Pekerja diugut jika masuk kesatuan akan hilang kerja, hilang OT, ditukar shift dan sebagainya. Pekerja tidak boleh berkumpul semasa rehat untuk berbincang tentang kesatuan. Jika berkumpul akan dihalau oleh supervisor. Wanita balik rumah ada human obligation make union meeting difficult. Pekerja diugut supaya tidak hadir aktiviti dan mesyuarat kesatuan. Pekerja yang buat laporan di Jabatan Buruh dan Jabatan Perhubungan Perusahaan diugut dan ditipu oleh supervisor supaya gugurkan kes. Saya sebagai seorang transgender dan juga exco kesatuan, saya juga mengalami pemerasahan kesatuan dan majikan. Saya mula masuk kerja pada tahun 2018. Pada masa itu, majikan tahu saya seorang trans woman dan bagi saya uniform perempuan, saya juga mula aktif dalam kesatuan. Tetapi Pada tahun 2019, selepas saya start aktif dengan union, gender saya makin lama makin jadi isu. Supervisor majikan saya paksa saya potong rambut, keluar subang dan rantai dengan alasan ganggu kerja. Dan lelaki perlu nampak macam lelaki. Tapi rambut panjang, subang atau rantai itu tidak kacau kerja saya. Saya pun. Selama ini saya memang kerja dengan macam ini, tetapi masa itu sebab ada kontraktor baru masuk, mereka nak hapuskan kesatuan. Itu sebab mereka cari pasal datang kacau saya. Paksa saya potong rambut. Supervisor juga kata, jika siapa masuk kesatuan tahun 2020 tidak akan dapat kerja bawah majikan saya. Masa itu saya sudah sangat stres. Pada tahun 2020, majikan saya mengambil alih sepenuhnya kontrak perkhidmatan pembersihan. Majikan saya lagi banyak bagi tekanan kepada saya. Saya akan buat aduan di Jabatan Tenaga Kerja dan Jabatan Perhubungan Perusahaan sebab majikan saya tidak bayar 1 jam OT. Dan pemerasahan kesatuan, tetapi selepas saya buat aduan, majikan lagi turut kacau saya. Supervisor mengasut pekerja lain jangan campur dengan saya sikit-sikit benda bagi saya surat kaunseling. Saya minta uniform perempuan. Mereka pun kata saya tak boleh pakai uniform perempuan. Mesti nak pakai uniform lelaki. Tetapi selama ini saya memang pakai uniform perempuan. Supervisor pun tahu. Tetapi selepas tukar majikan saya dipaksa pakai uniform lelaki. Saya sangat tak happy sebab saya perempuan. Saya bukan lelaki. Tetapi supervisor tak mau bagi saya uniform perempuan. Ada sip lain datang sentuh saya dengan tidak seronok. Saya lapor kepada supervisor, supervisor pun tak ambil apa-apa tindakan. Supervisor juga selalu bully saya sebab saya transgender dan saya aktif dalam kesatuan. Mereka nak bagi tekanan sampai saya tak boleh tahan henti kerja atau keluar kesatuan. Ini saya perkara bukan berlaku satu kali sahaja, tetapi banyak kali. Supervisor kacau semakin kuat setiap kali. Tahun ini bulan April, supervisor lagi sekali bagi saya 2 surat kaunseling sebab ada officer dari pejabat perhubungan perusahaan datang nak interview saya. Saya bertahan 1 tahun lebih sampai saya tak boleh tahan nak bunuh diri. Saya pergi jumpa doktor. Doktor tengok saya sangat tension, takut saya bunuh diri. Bagi saya MC balik rumah rehat. Tetapi bukan saya seorang yang alami tekanan macam ini. Seorang lagi pekerja wanita di hospital awam juga ada masalah. Supervisor senjaja tukar lokasi dia ke wad lelaki kerana tindakan balas dendam oleh supervisor. Oleh kerana itu, pekerja tersebut mengalami tekanan jiwa sehingga pengasan dan dimasukkan ke dalam wad. Dia juga rasa nak bunuh diri dan akhirnya dia tak boleh tahan dan henti kerja. Ini berlaku juga tahun ini bulan April. Supervisor dan majikan saya macam-macam tekanan nak bagi kami takut. Nak bagi kami takut pergi kesatuan. Mereka mau kesatuan mati. Pekerja semua sangat takut. Mereka tak berani. Saya tak mau kesatuan mati. Saya mau kesatuan hidup. Boleh tolong semua pekerja kami, boleh sama-sama lawan dan dapat lagi baik untuk bekerja. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak Tarani kerana berkongsi pengalaman Tarani yang susah itu. Sekarang saya ingin jemput panel hakim. Sekiranya ada soalan untuk saudari Tarani.
Terima kasih Tarani. Saya merasa sungguh terharu mendengar penindasan ya terhadap Tarani. Apa perubahan ya? What changes ya Tarani hendak ingin ya berlaku, especially ya tindakan daripada majikan atau pihak kerajaan untuk menghormati Tarani sebagai seorang pekerja trans wanita ya dan sebagai seorang pemimpin yang aktif dalam kesatuan. Boleh share sikit tak apa perubahan yang Tarani ingin berlaku?
Aku sebab saya orang satu transgender, tempat saya semua orang dia takut. Sebab tak boleh masuk dalam union. Saya satu orang juga aktif dalam union. Kita pergi bincang apa-apa pun dengan supervisor dengar, nanti dia orang marah. Kita tak boleh buat apa-apa. Dia orang ingat saya macam, saya dah pernah cakap sama dia orang, saya satu transgender, sebab dia orang ingat tak macam-macam. Saya tak boleh campur dengan orang lain. Tak boleh cakap dengan orang lain. Macam-macam dia orang komplain.
Dan Tarani pernah komplain ke kepada majikan tentang tindasan atas Tarani? Sudah komplain?
Ya.
Okey. Terima kasih Tarani kerana berkongsi. Jadi kita harap dengan tribunal ini isu-isu yang Tarani dan pekerja
tempat saya yang saya tak boleh masuk tempat lain-lain tau. Sebab dia orang ingat macam saya banyak soft.
Okey Tarani, terima kasih ya. Kita harap dengan Women's Tribunal, Tribunal Wanita ini, isu tindasan, union busting yang Tarani dan rakan-rakan lain yang sudah menampakkan di tribunal ini, kita dapat action ya sesungguhnya untuk membawa kepada perubahan ya. Terima kasih Tarani kerana berkongsi.
Okey. Terima kasih Zaina. Terima kasih lagi saudari Tarani kerana telah berusaha untuk pergi ke Ipoh semata-mata untuk menyampaikan testimoninya dan semata-mata untuk mendapatkan internet yang bagus. Terima kasih ya saudari Tarani. Okay. The next witness, witness number 19, she will be here live with us and her name is Paddy, but she will not be turning on her camera. Paddy will be sharing her experiences of discrimination and harassment towards transgender women. I'd now like to invite Hedy to share her testimony with us.
Selamat pagi. Saya Hedy. Saya berumur 28 tahun. Sebagaimana maklumlah ya, saya seorang wanita transgender yang juga dikenali sebagai transwoman ataupun maknyah di Malaysia. Saya sendiri pernah dan masih mengalami pengalaman yang berbentuk diskriminasi dari segi pelbagai aspek. Contoh dari segi meminta dan mencari pekerjaan, dari segi masyarakat setempat, agensi kerajaan dan juga keluarga yang terdekat. Secara keseluruhan ini saya ingin berkongsi yang saya pernah ditangkap sebanyak 3 ke 4 kali untuk kes berpakaian wanita. Okay, untuk kali pertama saya ditangkap dan dijatuhkan hukum dan dibayar denda sebanyak RM700. Pada tahun 2009 saya ditahan untuk kali kedua dengan pegawai Jabatan Agama atas berpakaian wanita dan perwatakan wanita di tempat awam. Dan dalam masa yang sama juga saya telah dikasari dan dipukul semasa tangkapan. Saya memang takut semasa itu. Okey, semasa kejadiannya untuk yang kes yang ketiga dan keempat ni, saya bersama 3 lagi rakan saya ditahan semalaman di Pejabat Jabatan Agama Negeri Sembilan ya, dan dinaikkan ke mahkamah syariah untuk dakwaan pada keesokan harinya. Dalam masa tahanan tu kami diraba dan dijadikan bahan gurauan yang saya rasa sangat memalukan lah. Dan sebagainya. Untuk tahanan yang ketiga tu saya nak penerangannya dan saya ditahan dengan keadaan yang saya rasa memang tak patut. Saya berpakaian, kalau nak katakan hari yang ketiga tu saya ditahan, saya pakai baju yang unisex, pakai macam pakai yang tak nampak tak nampak ke arah keperempuanan. Saya pakai t-shirt besar, saya pakai seluar pendek yang nampak seluar tenis lelaki tu para lutut. Dalam masa yang sama, masa tengah lepak tu berlaku raid Jabatan Agama lah buat rodaan. Saya ditahan dan kemudian diorang tanya saya kenapa duduk sini. Saya cakap saya melepak. Lepas tu dia pandang saya, dia check, dia kata, saya cakap kenapa nak tahan saya. Lepas tu dia kata fizikal saya macam perempuan. Kemudian saya telah diraba nak tengok sama ada saya memakai bra atau tak. Saya rasa macam sangat memalukan lah. Okay, saya memang diraba, saya rasa macam aib sangat saya kat situ. Lepas tu kira macam diorang sampai tergelak-gelak macam tu, buatkan saya macam down sangat down. Lepas tu masa kes yang ketiga tu bahan bukti yang diorang ambil adalah slipper saya. Slipper macam slipper jamban tu. Lepas tu dengan getah rambut, scrunchie. Pelik puaka. Pada masa kami di mahkamah yang saya nak berkongsi yang saya telah digari. Ada polis minta IC dan panggil nama dengan kuat nama saya, nama lelaki lah. Saya rasa macam tu satu yang mengaibkan. Orang nampak. Lepas tu yang saya tengah hadir untuk kes mahkamah. Lepas tu saya sampai saya rasa macam saya tak tahan, saya lari kat luar. Malu kot buat macam tu sebab saya ni macam dah lah kena tangkap, lepas tu buat macam tu kan. Pada masa tu pesalah ni untuk seksyen 99 ni, lelaki berpakaian wanita di Negeri Sembilan telah dikenakan denda sebanyak RM1,000 dan juga penjara 6 bulan. Bila sekali atau 2 kali dah kena, kemungkinan risiko untuk saya masuk dalam tu lebih tinggi sebab dah 2-3 kali kena tangkap kan. Sebab pernah terjadi kawan saya, kali pertama kena tangkap, dia bayar denda, kali kedua terus dia tolak masuk dalam penjara. Kira sampai dia tanyalah, tak serik ke nak masuk penjara ni. Dia cakap, kenapa saya nak serik? Sebab saya nak jadi diri saya sendiri. Saya rasa takut. Lepas tu saya rasa benda ni patut orang dengar sebab saya rasa tak salah kalau nak nak berpakaian ataupun nak jadi diri sendiri macam tak mengikut peraturan sangat. Saya cari badan NGO dan juga untuk minta bantuan supaya saya tak dimasukkan ke penjara masa kes saya tu. Bagi saya tak setuju dengan akta berpakaian wanita ni sebab saya tak melakukan jenayah macam merompak, mencuri, mencederakan orang. Saya hanya berpakaian mengikut apa yang saya rasa saya selesa. Kemudian meminta bantuan NGO, kemungkinan sebab saya rasa mungkin dia akan dipenjarakan sebab atas dakwaan berpakaian berpakaian wanita di khalayak umum lah. Untuk syariah, untuk kes syariah ni susah untuk mendapatkan peguam. Jadi saya minta pergi ke Biro Bantuan Guaman untuk mendapatkan bantuan guaman secara percuma, tapi diorang cakap mengaku salah je lah, memandangkan kes ni kes remeh. So saya marah juga, saya upset untuk mendapatkan bantuan tu sebab saya memang dah buntu masa tu. Saya tak tahu nak minta tolong kat siapa lagi sebab saya takut masuk penjara kan. Sebab ada setengah kawan saya tu masuk penjara sampai dia kena sakit HIV dengan AIDS. So saya je takut. Saya pergi ke NGO untuk minta bantuan beberapa orang lawyer sivil dengan syariah lah untuk penangguhan dan appeal kes di Mahkamah Tinggi. Kes berlarutan sampai tahun 2012, alhamdulillah kemenangan berpihak kepada kami di Mahkamah Rayuan Putrajaya. Apa yang saya lihat setelah kemenangan kes ni, penurunan drastik untuk penangkapan terhadap komuniti maknya bukan saja di negeri ini tapi di seluruh Malaysia. Wujud platform bantu orang memahami konsep untuk komuniti maknya ni. Kemenangan ini juga menjadikan rujukan untuk kes-kes lain LGBT kerana kes ni juga banyak membantu kes di Mahkamah Persekutuan baru-baru ini dari pelbagai aspek. Dalam masa yang sama, saya kongsi yang timbul kes hate crime terhadap golongan transgender dan LGBT ni oleh buat anti-LGBT dekat kawasan tempat saya tinggal lah. Kawasan ni saya pernah witness dan saya ada dan kes tu masih still on dekat mahkamah. Kawan saya menjadi mangsa hate crime, dipukul teruk lah sampai patah hidup masuk hospital. Oleh sekumpulan lelaki sampai masuk hospital teruk lah. Saya sendiri nampak kejadian itu. Mungkin saya rasa saya rasalah kebetulan tu kalau diorang jenis nak aim orang. Sebab kebetulan style rambut saya mungkin disebabkan kes yang saya dah buat dekat mahkamah tu, saya takut mungkin diorang aiming saya sebab pasal untuk yang yang anti-LGBT ni kan sebab kita dah melawan fakta apa semua, so saya takutlah. Kebetulan masa kawan saya kena pukul tu, saya rasa macam diorang aim untuk aku ke sebab style rambut sama. Mungkin saya takut saya jadi sasaran lah dekat masa kes kejadian kawan saya tu. Adakan kes rambang, saya takut sampai sekarang saya masih berhati-hati lah, takut kena pukul ke apa tu sebab saya ni masih macam cakap rasa tak selamat sampai ke hari ni. Bila saya dengar kawan saya bercerita sampai dia menjadi kes poli, baru saya faham yang dia jadi sasaran mereka sejak daripada kes tu komuniti dekat tempat saya tu dalam keadaan mood berjaga-jaga. Kawan saya masa tu, kes dia tu telah dipukul teruk dan dia nasihatkan untuk membuka kes ni, tapi bila dia nampak kami bersemangat untuk mencari keadilan, polis tu macam jalankan kerja lebih kerap membuat rondaan lah dekat tempat kami tu. Selepas kemenangan kes ni, saya nak kongsi pasal family lah ya. Hubungan saya dengan family makin renggang sebab saya rasa mereka malu dengan saya. Walaupun hanya nama yang diterbitkan secara umum dan sebab IC saya, nama IC saya tu dapat dicap. Ahli keluarga saya tanya sama ada, ni adik kau ke dalam kes sama ni? Adik kau yang lembut tu ke? Saya rasa macam disappointed, kecewa dah. Kenapa family saya boleh nak abandon saya, nak biarkan saya sampai malu dengan saya, lepas tu orang putuskan hubungan dengan saya, tak kontak dengan saya dan sebab saya nak usulkan kes ni ke muka pengadilan. Semasa kes saya berlangsung, saya ada depression yang sangat teruk. Saya tak boleh nak relate dengan family saya, dengan semua orang. Dan saya rasa sama-sama sangat. Saya depression sangat. Sebab saya cuba nak bunuh diri. Kemudian saya minta ada orang bawa saya pergi jumpa psikologis. Depression sangat seputus harapan. Tapi disebabkan kes ni kita dah menangani, alhamdulillah lah, keadaan sekarang dah berbeza. Bagi saya, keluarga ni penting. Sebab perlu ada sokongan, dan sebab kami transgender memang perlukan sokongan keluarga. Saya rasa cemburu lah bila ada setengah keluarga yang boleh menerima anak diorang sebagai transgender ni. Sampai pada pass away, sebab saya tak boleh nak bayangkan lah. Sampai sekarang kalau dibagi keluarga saya, perlukan keluarga saya, sebab itu untuk saya move on. Sebab bila saya macam ni, kami pilih jalan macam ni, bukan mudah sebenarnya untuk survive dekat Malaysia. So kita move on. Kita saya nak buat penerangan ataupun penekanan semasa waktu pandemik. Pada waktu pandemik ni, baru ni, Malaysia yang MCO, saya macam cakap kebanyakan komuniti maknyah ataupun transgender ni terjejas sangat kerana golongan ada majoriti kami melakukan kerja set worker untuk survive hidup. Dari segi bantuan makanan tak sampai, lepas tu rata-rata penduduk diduduki oleh golongan trans yang B40 tu, ada yang tunggal, ada golongan migrant, dan saya minta bantuan kat Baitullah pun tak dapat sebab diorang fikir kita orang ni maknyah ataupun golongan transgender. Sebab saya tak boleh nak bekerja, even a year pun tak boleh dapat. Sampaikan telefon saya problem masa tu pun, saya berada di kawasan pekan waktu lockdown tu pun kedai tutup, saya tak boleh nak buat apa-apa. Sebab tu macam dah lah keluarga abandon saya, dengan saya lonely macam ni, saya keseorangan, dengan saya butuhkan kewangan untuk hidup sebab saya tak tahu nak buat apa. Sebab sampaikan ada komuniti maknya yang berhutang berbulan-bulan tak bayar duit sewa rumah sebab tak boleh nak bekerja. Tiap kali kalau diorang nak turun kerja, polis akan lalu halau diorang. So kami nak makan apa, kami pun manusia, takkan kami nak mencuri. Bila kami nak turun bekerja pun tak boleh. Sampailah saya dapat apply untuk bantuan BPN secara sendiri ataupun persendirian yang dapat dalam BPN sebanyak 500 sudah untuk yang bujang. Itu juga saya gunakan untuk survive, untuk ikat perut untuk bantu saya waktu tu. Selain saya, ada juga trans sampai yang dah tak tahan dah tak boleh nak buat apa, lepaskan rumah macam tu, balik kampung macam tu. Teruk jugalah kami sebagai komuniti maknya ni waktu pandemik, tapi tak semua orang yang bagi perhatian. Saya haraplah kan kerajaan Malaysia yang baru ni dapat buka mata dan bantu golongan kami dengan adil, sama rata sebagai rakyat Malaysia, sebagai macam contoh untuk dalam bidang pekerjaan, yang mana untuk komuniti trans women yang tak ada pekerjaan dibagikan pekerjaan. Lepas tu kalau yang diberhentikan kerja tu, bantulah apa yang perlu, sebab kami ni bukan minta banyak pun untuk kerajaan ni kan. Dan saya berharaplah dibagi hak yang sama ada dari segi pendidikan, pekerjaan, dan juga hak mutlak sebagai rakyat Malaysia. Terima kasih.
Hello, hi Paddy. Paddy sudah siap menceritakan testimoni?
Ya, sudah.
Okey, terima kasih banyak Paddy kerana menceritakan testimoni yang pengalaman Paddy yang memang sangat sukar. Sekarang saya ingin jemput panel hakim untuk bertanyakan soalan kepada Paddy.
Terima kasih Paddy kerana berani ya bersuara mengenai hak-hak trans women. Paddy, setiap kali Paddy ditahan oleh pihak polis dan I guess dengan pihak Jabatan Agama juga, adakah ini sebahagian dari serbuan ya, raid atau tadi Paddy cakap tengah lepak saja di luar pun kena tangkap. Jadi boleh tak cerita sikit konteks macam mana Paddy dan trans women lain yang selalu kena tangkap itu?
Kebiasaannya tempat yang kami melepak tu memang tempat yang hotspot, memang kawasan-kawasan. Sebab kat situ je ada kedai mamak yang murah sebab kami kawasan kampung, kawasan pakai. Kami memang lepak kat situ lah sebab komuniti kami pun dekat kawasan tu pun tak banyak, dalam dekat 20 orang. So kebiasaannya biasalah kalau dekat tempat kawasan 4 betul semua tu ada yang kita ambil tu untuk kerja. Macam saya biasa kadang-kadang melepak, tapi disebabkan diorang nak buat raid sebab kat situ ada kawasan 4, polis dengan Jabatan Agama diorang buat raid dekat situ. Kat situlah berlakunya benda ni semua. Nak tak nak sebab ada yang bagi alasan kami terpaksa buat kerja. Dan juga saya nak kongsi satu cerita ya. Pernah dan juga ada kawan saya ditangkap, tapi masa tu Jabatan Agama buat baru lepas habis raid dekat bukan kawasan tempat kami lepak tu, tapi berdekatan dekat situ, dan diorang balik lalu dekat kawasan kami lepak tu. Kawan saya telah ditangkap dan juga dibawa bersia-sia keliling bandar, lepas tu dihantar kat tepi jalan. So kalau nak dikatakan secara berjadual atau tak tu saya rasa benda tu random.
Jadi adakah because kena tangkap tu ada banyak kali yang random, adakah ini membuat Paddy kena mengambil langkah berjaga-jaga ya bila nak keluar, macam rasa tadi Paddy kata rasa takut, jadi apa langkah berjaga-jaga yang Paddy ambil bila nak keluar rumah?
Sebagai saya yang pernah memuatkan kes dekat mahkamah, saya lagi ambil langkah yang sangat berjaga-jaga lah. Mungkin daripada segi mungkin orang tahu, sebab sekarang ni saya hiding in the shadow, saya tak guna nama saya sebenar, saya gemukkan diri saya ubah fizikal saya supaya orang tak notice saya. Lepas tu my father pun dah pass away. Sepanjang PKP tu pun saya cuba nak contact dengan family saya sebab saya rindu kan. Lepas tu saya cuma ingat kakak kawan saya yang mana untuk kes yang kena pukul, kira yang anti, sebab Negeri Sembilan ni negeri yang beradat. So ada certain puak-puak yang jenis anti LGBT kat situ. So kalau yang even though kami berjalan-jalan keluar ke ataupun melepak dekat tempat yang mamak yang murah tu, kami still rasa takut sebab yang kes kawan saya kena pukul tu. Lepas tu kes yang saya filekan kes ni, dan juga saya pernah kalau nak dikatakan dekat rumah pun saya rasa tak selamat, sebab pernah terjadi masa saya tengah filekan kes tu, kita dalam proses kes tu, pihak Jabatan Agama datang kat rumah, suruh saya datang sebagai tetamu. Saya ingatkan dia datang nak beraya ke apa ke, suruh saya mengaku bersalah, suruh saya gugurkan kes sebab dia kata tak ada guna kita orang fight ni untuk keadilan. Sebagai kemaknya memang tak ada ke mana. So saya kat situ dah drop. Sampai kat rumah pun saya rasa tak selamat. Sampai kat jalan pun saya rasa tak selamat. Sampai saya nak connected dengan family pun saya kena buang, saya tak tahu nak ke mana. So sekarang ni saya ambil mood untuk hiding in the shadow dalam closet. Kalau bolehnya bungkus terus dalam tanah.
Terima kasih Paddy ya kerana berkongsi pengalaman ini dan keberanian Paddy menyuara ya mengenai isu-isu ini. Terima kasih Paddy.
Terima kasih Zaina dan panel hakim. Terima kasih sekali lagi kepada Paddy. Kami tetap akan menyokong Paddy, dan terima kasih juga kepada Tilaga dari Justice for Sisters kerana bersama dengan Paddy sekarang ya. Okay. Kita sekarang pada saksi yang ke-20. We are now at witness number 20, who is Harisa Begum. She is a Rohingya refugee from Myanmar. She lives in Kuala Lumpur, and we will now listen to an audio recording of Harisa's testimony read by her friend.
Nama saya Harisa. Saya dilahirkan di Myanmar dan kini berusia 28 tahun. Saya berkahwin pada usia 13 tahun. Suami saya tua setahun daripada saya. Ibu bapa saya mahu saya berkahwin kerana menurunkan budaya kami yang adalah perkara yang betul untuk dilakukan. Saya benar-benar tidak tahu kerana saya tidak faham apa-apa. Saya tidak faham apa ertinya untuk berkahwin. Saya tidak tahu apa maksudnya, tetapi semua orang di sekelilingi saya sangat gembira, terutamanya ahli keluarga saya. Dan jadi saya juga gembira. Hubungan seks sangat menyakitkan saya dan saya tidak selesa. Saya tidak menyukainya. Saya tidak suka suami saya menanggalkan pakaian saya. Saya tidak suka berbogel di hadapannya. Saya keliru. Saya tidak suka untuk disentuh. Segala-galanya tentang malam perkahwinan itu mengerikan. Saya mengandung setelah setengah tahun kemudian. Satu-satunya masa yang saya berasa gembira adalah ketika saya melihatkan dan melihat bayi saya buat kali pertama. Saya berumur 14 tahun setengah pada masa itu. Saya melahirkan 2 lagi anak dengan suami saya dalam tempoh 7 tahun. Keadaan menjadi lebih buruk di Rakhine. Saya dan suami saya menghadapi masalah daripada tentera Myanmar dan juga orang Rakhine. Pada suatu hari, 7 tahun selepas perkahwinan saya, suami saya pergi mencari rumah baru untuk kami kerana rumah kami telah dibakar oleh tentera. Dia tidak pernah pulang selepas itu. Saya beritahu dia setelah dibunuh. Saya sangat sedih, tetapi saya terpaksa memikirkan keselamatan anak-anak saya. Saya tidak mempunyai masa untuk bersedia memikirkan suami saya. Saya melarikan diri ke satu kampung berhampiran bersama anak-anak, ibu, ayah dan adik-beradik. Saya meninggalkan ketiga anak saya bersama keluarga dan datang ke Malaysia, memikirkan saya boleh mencari kehidupan yang lebih baik. Akhirnya kami sampai ke Thailand setelah 1 bulan hanyut di laut. Di Thailand, saya diminta bekerja dan menyelesaikan 6,000 yang terhutang kepada penyeludup. Saya bersetuju untuk bekerja dan oleh itu seorang ejen menjual saya kepada seorang Cina di Thailand dan saya dibawa ke tempat lain bersama wanita lain. Saya tahu ke mana saya dibawa, tetapi saya sedar yang saya sedang dijual. Nasib saya baik. Mereka berhenti di stesen minyak. Saya berpura-pura untuk pergi ke tandas tempat melarikan diri. Apabila saya bertemu dengan seorang lelaki, dia memberitahu saya bahawa saya berada di Kedah dan membantu saya menaik bas ke Kuala Lumpur. Sebaik saya turun dari bas, seorang lagi rakyat Malaysia yang baik hati membawa saya ke Ampang. Kehidupan saya di Ampang tidak bertahan. Saya tidak cukup makan dan yang menyedihkan hati saya kerana saya tidak dapat memberi anak-anak memakan yang baik. Kami makan nasi dan kadang-kadang ikan masin, biasanya kangkung. Jika ada wang lebihan, kami membeli ikan yang tidak segar atau buruk sedikit dengan harga RM5 sekilo. Apabila keadaannya benar-benar teruk, saya dan anak-anak saya makan nasi yang dimasak dengan serbuk kunyit hanya supaya ada sedikit rasa. Ayat tidak pernah didengari dalam keluarga saya. Kami makan ayam mungkin sekali atau dua kali setahun. Saya hamil sekarang dan saya masih makan makanan yang sama. Tiada apa-apa yang berkhasiat dan mengambillah makanan saya. Saya bimbang untuk bayi saya. Bayi memerlukan makanan dan vitamin yang baik. Saya tidak mengambil suplemen vitamin, melainkan saya mendapatnya dari klinik QFFD yang saya pergi ialah dikendalikan oleh saya tidak mempunyai wang. Bayi saya akan lahir bulan depan. Saya langsung tidak mempunyai simpanan untuk perbelanjaan hospital. Saya meminjam wang untuk melahirkan anak kedua saya dan masih belum menjelaskannya. Kalau tiada cara lain, saya akan bersalin di rumah dengan bantuan bidan. Tetapi bidan juga tidak sekarang kerana kelahiran di rumah tidak dibenarkan dan mereka boleh ditangkap oleh pihak polis. Tetapi apabila pilihan yang saya ada, apabila saya tidak mempunyai RM1 pun untuk memasukkan ke mana-mana hospital, saya berada dalam kedudukan yang sukar dan tidak tahu ke mana hendak pergi untuk mendapatkan bantuan. Saya tidak ada pengalaman ditangkap dalam sebuah immigration di sini atau diganggu oleh polis. Orang lain pernah dan mereka memberitahu saya mengenai, tetapi suami saya ditahan di setakat jalan raya Bandar Baru Ampang awal tahun ini. Dia dibawa masuk ke dalam van bersama orang lain dan diberitahu bahawa dia tidak boleh bekerja dengan kad UNHCR. Dia menghubungi saya dan saya meminta 150, membawa wang tersebut kepadanya dan membayar polis itu. Mereka melepaskan dia selepas itu. Saya sentiasa bimbang dia akan ditangkap lagi. Perkahwinan kedua saya berkahwin semula dan mempunyai 2 lagi anak dengan suami kedua saya yang bekerja sebagai memotong rumput dan berpendapatan kira-kira 800. Dia berumur 25 tahun. Saya hanya mahu seorang anak, tetapi mendapat seorang lagi anak. Saya tidak tahu tentang mencegah kehamilan kecuali suntikan. Saya tidak tahu tentang kondom. Suami saya sangat marah apabila saya mengandung anak ketiga dan dia menampar saya kerana tidak mengambil langkah berjaga-jaga. Saya tidak memberitahu sesiapa kecuali seorang kawan tentang suami saya memukul saya. Saya memberitahu kerana saya ingin menggugurkan kandungannya. Tetapi dia menasihati saya supaya tidak melakukannya, mengatakan mengancamnya nyawa, mahal dan juga berdosa, iaitu sebabnya saya memiliki untuk meneruskan kehamilan ini. Dipukul oleh suami adalah perkara biasa dalam komuniti saya, dan tiada wanita yang bercakap mengenainya lah dilihat sebagai perkara biasa. Tetapi suami saya seorang lelaki yang bertanggungjawab. Dia memastikan ada makanan dan susu untuk saya dan anak-anak. Tetapi jika saya mempunyai pilihan, saya tidak mahu tinggalkan bersama suami saya. Saya mahu hidup sendiri, tetapi saya tidak mempunyai pilihan. Saya mempunyai anak-anak. Kami tidak pernah berbincang apa-apa. Suami saya menyalahkan saya untuk segala-galanya. Saya tidak mahu mengadakan hubungan seks dengan suami saya, tetapi bagaimana saya boleh mengatakan tidak? Saya cuma untuk bersabar kebanyakan masa. Saya tidak tahu apa masa depan saya. Saya rasa terperangkap. Saya tidak mempunyai pendidikan dan tiada kemahiran. Saya tidak boleh buat apa-apa di sini kerana Malaysia tidak menerima pelarian. Kaya memikirkan anak-anak saya dan juga tidak dapat melihat satu masa depan untuk mereka. Kehidupan bersama suami saya ini bukan pilihan saya. Saya terperangkap. Satu-satunya perkara yang saya harapkan ialah pendidikan yang baik untuk anak-anak saya. Mereka tidak boleh menjadi seperti saya, tidak berpendidikan dan perkahwinan pada usia muda. Mereka tidak boleh membesar tanpa satu masa depan yang bagus. Terima kasih.
Kami sungguh berterima kasih kepada Harisa dan juga rakannya kerana atas rakaman testimoni Harisa tersebut. Before we proceed to more testimonies, we will now take a short break to allow ourselves a break and maybe grab a cup of coffee or maybe move around. So on this break, please do enjoy this video that we'll be playing, but please come back at 11:15. And we also apologize to our witnesses who are waiting. We will run over time a little bit, but we will restart at 11:15 a.m. Please come back at 11:15 a.m. Kita akan ada rehat sebentar. Sila kembali pada pukul 11:15 pagi. Terima kasih.
One of the oldest civilizations in the world has evolved to a culture that's placed high value as a woman in the kitchen, serving tea that should be served hotter than my ambition, my head down, the bells on my anklet louder than my voice. Nenek moyangku datang ke tanah Melayu lebih 200 tahun yang dulu untuk mencari kehidupan yang lebih baik, dan di bawah angin khatulistiwanya, luka yang lama kian sembuh. 3 generasi telah pun berlalu. Parut lama mereka, legasi mereka masih aku pakai dengan bangga. Aku marah bila melihat tanah ini kian dirobek oleh korupsi dan sikap tamak haluba. Media dimanipulasikan, dan bila kita ingin bersuara, ianya dingam, dibuang dari pameran, disaman atas sebab hasutan dan didakwa atas kesalahan jenayah. Whether I choose my identity to be an Indian woman or a Malaysian, both of those identities leave me in a place where my voice is suppressed. My only escape to have a voice is the arts.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Selamat kembali ke Tribunal Wanita Malaysia. I'd like to say hello also to those watching on Facebook Live. Selamat kembali ke Tribunal Wanita Malaysia. Saya ingin ucapkan hello dan selamat pagi kepada mereka yang menonton melalui Facebook Live juga. We are now still at the fourth round of the testimonies. This morning, we have just listened to 5 testimonies, and we will now continue with 6 more testimonies today. I'd like to start. Witness number 21 is Priscilla Koller, who will be sharing about the struggles of being a Malaysian woman married to someone of different nationalities and how she faces gender discriminative laws when it comes to the nationality of her children. We are very happy that Priscilla is joining us today live and will be sharing her testimony now. Welcome, Priscilla.
Hi, everyone. I'm Priscilla, a Malaysian woman, married French national, and have 3 children. 2 of my children who were born in France are still awaiting Malaysian citizenship and hold French passports. I have a son aged 4 who born in Malaysia and holds Malaysian citizenship. I live in France from 2009 to 2015, and throughout my time in France, I remained in close and frequent contact with the Embassy of Malaysia in Paris, yet was never informed of my limited rights to confer citizenship. Even when I gave birth to my eldest in 2010 and my second daughter in 2012, with the exception of 6 years in France, my entire life was spent in Malaysia. In September 2015, I returned to Malaysia when my husband and I separated. It was at this point when I made aware of the citizenship provisions that prohibited me from passing on my Malaysian citizenship to my 2 daughters. On the 2nd December 2015, I have submitted an application for citizenship under Article 15.2 for both my daughters. And on 28 February 2019, I received notification that the Ministry of Home Affairs had rejected both applications. During this period of waiting, I received no updates or notification on the progress of the applications, despite contacting the Ministry of Home Affairs numerous times. On 15 April 2019, I resubmitted applications for citizenship for my daughters for the 2nd time. As of submission of this communication, I have yet to receive a decision. Hence, to acquire a 90 days tourist visa for both my daughters, they had to exit and re-enter the country every 90 days to acquire new visa. Between 2015 and 2017, my daughters and I had made 9 trips. Each trip had cost approximately 4,000 ringgit, making it an estimate total of 36,000 ringgit spent on visa runs alone. I, as a single mom, had to take on 2 jobs to keep up with the cost. In 2016, when I was unable to take time off from work, my eldest overstayed their tourist visa by 3 days. That was around 93 days, and were fined 100 ringgit each. At the time, I made appeals to the Department of Immigration, but was eventually forced to entrust a friend to make visa run on my behalf with my 2 daughters. I had to endure harsh comments from the officers during many visits to the government office on visa matters, including were questions on my legitimacy of my marriage, suggestion that I should remarry my former ex-husband. My divorce was finalized on 28 June 2017 and request of proof of maternity via DNA test. In 2018, I enrolled my daughters into an international school and have been able to secure a yearly student visa for them. Cost to apply a student visa is 60 ringgit per student paid to the government, which requires medical insurance, which I have to pay 1,454 ringgit yearly. Each student pass requires also to pay 550 ringgit to the school, thus far totaling 5,500 ringgit. In February 2021, amidst the government mandate movement control orders in the allocation of residents, mandate due to heightened exposure of COVID-19, both their student passes were still required to be renewed. Further, both are enrolled into international school because of the many hurdles they face as non-citizens in accessing public schools. Due to this, I'm required to pay a substantial amount each year for their education from 2017 to 2021. I have paid 135,000 ringgit, 730 for the eldest, and 173,148 ringgit for the youngest daughter. This is a cost that would have been otherwise been free if they were able to obtain my Malaysian citizenship, as their mother is Malaysian. Our family are left in a vulnerable position, especially at this time during the pandemic, when the industry of employment hospitality has been severely crippled, causing me to lose my job. I do not receive financial support from my former husband, ex-husband, for my daughter's schooling or medical insurance, both which they cannot access at affordable rates in Malaysia. I worry that if I cannot afford international school, my children would go uneducated, causing me to lose custody. On top of that, I also do not receive social welfare schemes offered by the government for my children, such as economic stimulus package offered to support the public during the pandemic. I'm suffering from extreme financial hardships because of the citizenship laws that prevent me from conferring my nationality to my children just because I'm a woman. Every year, my daughter's visa need to be processed and I have to pay for private schooling, exorbitant healthcare rates. The country that is supposed to be protecting me, yet as a single mother, I'm put into extreme vulnerability and insecurity, and in constant fear of losing my children. My eldest daughter have exactly 5 years left in Malaysia. If I do not get citizenship for her, I might lose her. So we might be separated after this. Before I conclude, I'd like to thank all of you for listening. This is the end of my story.
Thank you very much, Priscilla, for sharing your testimony with us. I'd like to invite a panel of judges if you have any comments to Priscilla.
So much, Priscilla, for sharing your story with us. We understand that this whole situation has been very distressing for you and your children, and we hope that eventually it can be resolved. I just have a few questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
So earlier you recounted that you, while you were in France, you actually regularly went to the consulate.
Yes.
Are you able to tell us how was your experience like in dealing with them?
Yeah, I will be very direct. They are not helpful, cold, very intimidating. When I was at Lyon, not in Paris, so I do call regularly to let them or notify them I do exist, like a Malaysian do exist in this, a small part of that little area I was living in, because I was the only Asian there. I do let them know about my whereabouts. I did let them know I was pregnant. Even after I gave birth, I posted my my marriage certificate, my daughter's birth certificate. In all the attempts of being communicative with them, never once they told me that please go back to Malaysia and give birth so that they can get Malaysian citizenship. Or I was never aware that there will be a problem with citizenship. I did not at all know that. Even at the last 6 months before I could leave France for good, I contacted them and said, they're holding French passports. What is the step? What can I do? What is the procedure for them to have long-term visa? And her response was, you go back to Malaysia and do everything there. She pushed everything back to JPN and said, when you go back to Kuala Lumpur, you get them to help you, they will do it for you. So what I thought was, okay, buy the flight ticket, go back to Malaysia, and everything can be sorted out here. But I was so wrong. So when I came back here, they told me you have to sort it out over there. So there say here and here say there. So which one is it? So the person who is suffer is my kids and me. So during these 90 days, for they were 5 and 3 years old, we had to go in and out of Malaysia.
Thank you so much for sharing with us about that. Just another follow-up question, as a Malaysian mother who previously lived and have given birth overseas, what can these consulates do to help Malaysian mothers like you?
Just be direct and upfront, like knowing when the mother she's married to a foreigner, or when the Malaysian woman contact the embassy, directly say, are you pregnant, or are you going to get pregnant? Are you going to get pregnant in 2 years? At least be upfront and say, hey, you're going to get pregnant. This is what will happen. Go back to Malaysia, then give birth, then come back here. Just be direct. Because I don't know why our law don't allow us to confer. What I have a Malaysian son. What is the difference between my Malaysian son and my 2 daughters? I don't see the difference here. And what is the threat? What is the threat that my daughters have Malaysian citizenship? They're still small girls, little school girls.
Thank you so much for sharing with us this very difficult experience.
Yeah.
We hope that this tribunal would be able to pressure the Malaysian government to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And we also hope that the current citizenship case will be resolved with a decision that fully supports Malaysian mothers and Malaysian children.
Yeah. Can I say just one more thing, if you got time? Is for all the Malaysian mothers, our number one fear is separation. We just don't want to be I think for any mother, any mother of any nationality, we don't want our kids to be separated from us. So now my biggest fear is separation. So I don't understand if the government doesn't want to allow or give or doing all their power to stop citizenship for us, for our kids. Why don't have a special visa, special pass that enables the kids to school in government schooling, go government hospital, don't have separation issue from the mother. So even after the kid goes above 16, 17, 18, at least there is still chance to be with the mother. Not in fear that we will lose our kid when the child turns 18. My 2 children can't speak any French language. So I don't know what happens after 18. I just drive them to Kuala Lumpur, KLIA, and then say, okay, fly off to France. What happens after 18? Yeah, that's what I just wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable with us.
Okay. Thank you, Priscilla. And thank you also to Nadia. We will proceed with the following witness. Witness number 22. She is using the pseudonym Jennifer, and she will be sharing her testimony on her experiences on gender discriminative laws on citizenship. I now invite Jennifer to share her testimony.
Thank you for allowing me to speak in this tribunal. My name is Jennifer, and currently I am in a difficult situation whereby both my mother and my sister, my elder sister, are Malaysians, but I am not. My mother, Madam Lee, she married a man from Hong Kong, and she gave birth to my elder sister, Elaine, in Malaysia. And therefore, my sister Elaine was able to have a citizenship by the law of land. However, shortly after my elder sister's birth, my mother returned with my father to his birth country in Hong Kong for his work. And 3 years later, in 1998, I was born. I am now 23 years old as of this year, and because at the time of my birth, my family, they didn't have enough money to send my mother to to Malaysia to give birth to me here. And therefore, I was not able to become a Malaysian automatically because the law states that Malaysian mothers are not able to confer citizenship to her children who are born overseas. So at that time, my mother was forced to give me the Hong Kong citizenship. Throughout her marriage with my father in 1995, my mother actually suffered a lot. She suffered abuse, emotional, physical, and even financial. Unfortunately, even my elder sister was not spared from this kind of abuse. And I suffered mental abuse and neglect from my father throughout my time with him. In 2014, my sister Elaine, she was supposed to start her higher education, her tertiary education in Malaysia. Because of the quality of education here, my mother actually convinced my father to please send her to Malaysia to pursue her higher education. And she is also already a local of Malaysia. So she was able to have a PTPTN funding, which really lightened our financial burden. So my sister went to Malaysia to pursue her higher education. 2 years later, in 2016, my mother also managed to convince my father to send me here in Malaysia so that I can also have a good quality education. However, because I am a foreigner, I am not able to come to Malaysia without a visa. So my family had to apply for me the student visa. We could only afford 1 year student visa at a time. And after 1 year, it will be expired. And after that, I have to return to Hong Kong alone to my father. Whereas my sister and my mother, they remain in Malaysia. So in 2017, I returned to Hong Kong. And at that time, my father's mental and character had been suffering. So he had been very angry, and he expressed it through his verbal and even mental abuse. So when I went back, it was very tension in the house. So after a few days after I returned to Hong Kong, my father had a horrible temper, and he kicked me out of the house. So I was kicked out of the house and I was alone in Hong Kong. I actually do not have any family in Hong Kong, no extended family. So I was alone. And I had to call my mother, who is in Malaysia. And
It's all right, Jennifer. We understand that it's very difficult. Please take your time. You may continue whenever you feel that you are comfortable and when you are ready.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So at that time, it took my mother 5 months to collect the funding to send me back to Malaysia with her. So my mother had to take out her saving to send me back from Hong Kong to Malaysia so that I could be with her and with my sister. So ever since then, I have been on a student visa because my mother managed to collect the funding to send me to a higher education here where I pursue my bachelor degree in a private university. So in April 2020, I finished my bachelor study, and along with it, my student visa already expired as well. I was supposed to find a job in Malaysia, to find a company that would endorse an employment visa for me. However, the pandemic was going on and the lockdown happened. So I was not able to find a job. because of my status as a non-citizen fresh graduate. The market was very competitive, and with the lockdown, it really did not help the matter. So again, my family was pushed to a desperate situation whereby they had to decide whether I should go back to Hong Kong alone with no one in the middle of a pandemic, or should I find a way to remain in Malaysia? So there was no choice.
All right, take your time, Jennifer. Maybe
Mhm.
you can breathe in and out slowly, and then when you're okay, then only you may start. Just take your time.
Okay, so because of the lack of choice, my family decided that I had to enroll into a master program so that I could have another visa, a long-term visa to remain here while we wait for the pandemic to get better. So right now, I am currently enrolled in a very good, affordable private university, and I enrolled in a master in business administration. So this visa also has a time limit, which is 2 years. So this is the situation whereby my family has to spend a lot of finance and a lot of mental well-being just so that they can keep me here with them. Okay, so it's actually a very frustrating and difficult situation because I would rather find work in Malaysia to support my family financially instead of adding to their burden. My family, my mother and my sister, they are very concerned to send me alone to Hong Kong because I do not have family, I do not have any house, and the pandemic is still going on. So in 2019, my mother separated from my father in the form of a divorce, and we have not been in contact with him ever since. Actually, my mother in 2016 already applied for my citizenship. I was 18 years old at the time, so I still meet the age criteria. But after 5 years until now, we were not able to have any progress. There was no update from the Home Ministry, from KPN at all, even though we follow up a lot to the Putrajaya, we follow up with the email and with the phone call, but there were no progress at all. I am now over the age of 21. The government may deny me citizenship because of my age. And although I am a child of a Malaysian, there was no other way for me to have another kind of visa, like a permanent residence. So the only way for me to stay here with my family is through a expensive long-term visa. We were not allowed a PR. This delayed response, as well as the discrimination in the Malaysian Constitution against my mother's gender, places children like me in a very difficult environment. Even my security is at risk. When we think about it, the only difference between me and my elder sister, who is a Malaysian, is the difference in geography. She was born in Malaysia, but I was born outside of Malaysia, and therefore, I was deprived of the citizenship and have been forced into a very mentally exhausting situation where I am unsure of my own future, and I live in fear every day if I will be separated from my family.
Take your time.
Before I conclude, I do want to implore that by delaying the implementation of the High Court decision, the government continue to place us in a situation of harm, like the risk of separation and domestic abuse in broken family, and a lifetime of uncertainty and difficulty. So in light of Malaysia sit on the Human Rights Council, and in the spirit of the Keluarga Malaysia, the government must withdraw the appeal and allow the High Court judgment to prevail while we await the amendment to the Federal Constitution. So by this, I will conclude my testimony. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, for your courage in sharing your testimony. I'd like to invite the judges if you have any questions to Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing what has been a very difficult situation. And in this case, as the child, you yourself you had your whole life being affected by the fact that you were denied citizenship.
Thank you.
I only have one follow-up question, and please feel free to take your time to answer this question because it might be a bit distressing. We noticed that your sibling, your elder sister, actually has Malaysian citizenship, but you were denied your citizenship. How did this difference make you feel, and how has it affected you?
Personally, it really made me feel lonely, and I feel ignored, and I feel like the government, the system here, really don't care about me, even though I am a child of a Malaysian. My mother is a Malaysian. She was born here, but the government do not even care about her descendant. I feel lonely in the sense that my elder sister is a Malaysian with my mother. So she is able to stay here in Malaysia with my mother. Actually, my closest family is my sister and my mother. So I feel like I'll be very lonely if I have to separate from them. And when we think about it, the only difference in me and my sister is the place of our birth. It's a matter of geographical difference. She was born in Malaysia and I was born outside. So because of this one small thing, I am not able to be a citizen with my mother and my sister. And at that time, in my situation, and I'm sure many children also have the same situation as I do, there are many people who were not able to come back to Malaysia to give birth. They may not have the financial means to do so, and they may be facing abuse in their family. So it doesn't mean that only privileged people who can afford to fly back to Malaysia to give birth are they the only one who are allowed a citizenship, and my mother, who is not privileged, is not allowed a citizenship for her children. So I think that's the part that makes me and even my family feel very lonely in this. So I think that's it to answer your question.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being vulnerable and sharing all these difficult things with us. I hope
Thank you.
take your time to calm yourself down. And I would like to commend your courage in being here with us today and giving a voice to other young Malaysians who might be in the same predicament, but they do not have this platform to be heard. We hope that your presence today will actually help us to continue pressuring the government to do the right thing for Malaysian mothers and Malaysian children like you.
Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Please know that we are all here to support you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are now at witness number 23, the late Adelina Lisau, a domestic worker who was exploited and abused and has since passed away. Let us first offer a moment of silence in remembrance of Adelina Lisau. Let us now watch a video about the late Adelina's story.
We met Adelina on the day we got a phone call telling us neighbors were concerned about the well-being of a young woman who they were trying to help. We met her at a police station, and it was there we could see her poor physical condition. When we asked her where she was from and if she wanted a drink, she would only respond after she was given permission to. We accompanied her to the hospital and stayed with her during the night. The following morning, she was very uncomfortable. She kept repositioning herself to try to ease the discomfort she was feeling. Early in the afternoon, her condition drastically deteriorated, and she sadly passed away a few hours later. She was 20 years old. Adelina's story begins when she was only 15 years old, when she came to work in Malaysia. Upon returning home, she had earned about 1,000 Malaysian ringgit. A neighbor invited her to return to Malaysia and told her if she followed the agent, she could earn the same amount of money in just 1 month. She left with the agent when her family were away from the house, and the family never saw her again until she returned home to be laid to rest. Unfortunately, this did not just happen to Adelina. Countless women are enticed by agents to leave their communities to travel and work in Malaysia. Women from small rural villages may not speak Indonesian, but speak their own local language. Their homes have limited facilities, and they have never been exposed to what most would consider the modern world, and they are ill-prepared to work as domestic workers. Many of these women don't know their rights and what is fair treatment. Their passports are taken away from them, they are not paid their salaries, and they are afraid to leave and seek help, as they have been threatened with arrest and detention by their agents and employers. In Adelina's case, reports stated that she has been sleeping outside of her employer's home on the porch with a dog. Neighbors reportedly said, "We really tried to help her, but she seemed so afraid of something." Her employers, a 60-year-old woman and her children, a 39-year-old son and a 36-year-old daughter, were detained and remanded for the investigation into Adelina's death. The photo of Adelina that is on her tombstone is the only photo Adelina's family have of her. It is her passport photo. Adelina was a brave young woman that left the comfort of her family in order to bring money back home to support them. There is no happy ending to this story. Only the hope that by telling her story and raising awareness, her story will not be repeated. Working as a domestic worker is not a dangerous job. No woman should die after being employed to do general housework and assist and care for someone else's family when her only goal is to take care of her own.
We will now listen more of Adelina's story, witness number 23, which will be read by Glorine Das, the Executive Director of the Naganita. Glorine, I'd like to request that you speak slowly so that the interpreters can catch up and translate. Thank you. Please go ahead, Glorine.
Thank you so much. Every time I watch this video, It is a reminder that domestic workers throughout the world continue to be treated badly simply because they are unrecognized. Dear esteemed judges, my name is Glorine Das. I will be presenting the testimony for the late Adelina Lisau, an Indonesian domestic worker. Adelina's Lisau's case captured the attention of the world when she passed away on February 11, 2018, due to organ failure as a result of neglect, physical, emotional abuse, and forced labor at the hands of employers in their home for 2 years. Adelina's passport was kept by the employer from the beginning of her employment. She never saw her passport. A work permit was not renewed, which led her to become undocumented by the immigration system. In fact, after Adelina's death, the employer's daughter was charged under the Immigration Act for employing Adelina without valid legal documents. Going back to what happened to Adelina back in 2018, one of the neighbors sent an email seeking assistance for Adelina to our sister organization in Penang, WCC, sometime in February 2018. The email was forwarded to Tenaganita requesting for assistance. Upon receiving this email, Tenaganita's team took a drive to the house, but we could not see anyone from outside. We continued to monitor the house, but no one came out, so we left. We then reported the matter to the police, but when they saw our report, they said it was hearsay without concrete evidence. They did not proceed with the matter. A few weeks later, when MP, Member of the Parliament, Stephen Sim's staff called us for help, we realized that it was the same case. From the information and documentation that we have gathered, we found that Adelina was instructed by the employer to wash the drains and toilets using eye-toxic chemical detergent. It got on her hands and her legs while she was washing, which led her to having wounds. The employer did not provide her with any form of medical care and treatment. When the wounds started oozing pus, the employer sent her to sleep outside the house beside their pet dog, a Rottweiler. After a week, MP Stephen Sim informed us that he has requested the police to rescue her. Adelina was rescued, then brought to the police station together with the employers to take statements. When we arrived at the police station, we found her to be so weak and needed immediate, urgent medical treatment. So we pressured the police to bring her to the hospital instead of taking statements. They agreed to let her receive the medical treatment first. In a brief conversation while we were there in the hospital with the doctors attending to Adelina that night, we were informed by them that she would be discharged the next day, and they requested if we could care for her in our shelter in Penang. We were also told that this was not an accident as claimed by the employer, as wounds were also found on her thighs and perineal region of her body. When Adelina was admitted to hospital, 2 persons from our team were there to speak to her, even gave her some food, which she was so afraid to take because the employers were watching her so closely. I would like to share some of the observation made by my team in Penang. First, Adelina was very fearful of the 2 persons, employers who came with her to the police station She would not even accept food or drink without their permission. Second, a shocking physical state. When she sat at the edge of the bed, fluid from her injuries dripped over the floor, which required the nurse to mop up the floor continuously. We were concerned that she might lose a food. We did not imagine she would lose a life. Third, it was not appropriate time for the police to be questioning her, as she needed immediate medical attention first. And finally, despite the employer's daughters saying Adelina had eaten a good meal prior to the hospital admission, she was so hungry when we gave her some food, particularly one of our team member. The next morning, Adelina was in a lot of discomfort. When Tonight Anita's team returned after a short break, Adelina was unresponsive, despite the medical team trying to resuscitate her. She never regained consciousness. Adelina died shortly after while waiting for an ICU bed. The autopsy report showed that she had a swollen face, dog bite marks, and acid burns. She was only 20 years old. I reiterate the words of Adelina's mom to us. Dia mati bukan akibat penyakitnya, tetapi kerana dia didera. A daughter did not die because of sickness, but because she was tortured. A person is dead and her blood is in our hands. Allowing perpetrators such as the employers to walk free, as she is currently acquitted, makes us all complicit to the death of Adelina and many others who shared the same fate. I strongly believe that the only way to eliminate serious abuse, dear judges, and exploitations to any persons is for the perpetrators to be prosecuted and jailed for a lengthy period of time. The main reason the abuse of domestic workers is so widespread is to the lack of legal protection. The Employment Act 1995, which supposedly protects the rights of domestic workers, does not even recognize them as workers, but instead defines them as servants. As a result, many employers feel that they can subject their domestic workers to sustained abuse and torture with impunity, which sometimes and tragically, as in the case of Adelina and many others before her, those who seek to free themselves from abusive and exploitative work by running away are criminalized and prosecuted under the Immigration Act because they automatically become undocumented. And from our experiences of such cases, it becomes clear that the authorities and enforcement agencies, including the judiciary, continues to punish the victims, as the onus of proof of being legal is on the victim when the controls are with the employers and the agents. It is only when domestic workers are recognized as workers will employers, agents, and we as Malaysians as a whole can ensure respect and dignity for domestic workers. This form of persistent and intentional discrimination of women from the most marginalized groups speaks volumes of how we failed to respect persons and ensure dignity. In the course of our work, along with other organizations, we often learn that domestic workers are never given a day off. She faces multiple other violations, such as withholding a passport, physical, psychological, economical, and sexual abuse, to name a few. There is a lack of inspection from the authorities. This is partially because of the legal and practical challenges of inspecting private homes and private domains, which may not be considered as workplaces. And as a result, domestic workers often have limited opportunities to complain. If anything constructive emerges from Adelina's tragedy, it is a plea for stronger protective regulation and legislation in Malaysia and better monitoring of the welfare of domestic workers, which is why it is so imperative to have one law, a separate legislation to protect domestic workers, both local and foreign domestic workers in Malaysia. We have been informed that Adelina's case will be reopened for trial at the federal court from the 9th December on the appeal against the employer's acquittal. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me, esteemed judges.
Thank you so much, Glorine. Before I invite the judges, I'd like to remind once again to all the witnesses to speak slowly when answering questions, to allow the interpreters some time. Now, I'd like to invite the panel of judges, if you have any questions, to Glorine.
Thank you very much, Glorine, for shedding light on this very tragic case of the late Adelina Lisa, and also for all your fight, to protect the rights of domestic workers and the urgent call for legislation. Glorine, there's been a lot of advocacy, right, on the rights of domestic workers, but of course, as we heard, the rights of hospital cleaners, contract workers, I mean, those in authority are just ignoring the rights of transgender women. I mean, the discrimination against the most oppressed and exploited groups of workers and those in the B40 just continue. I'm just wondering whether, are there any efforts to organize domestic workers into an association or a union, so that their voice can be heard to fight for better conditions? And what would be the challenges? Because the Filipino domestic workers seem to be better treated than workers from other source countries. And I'm just wondering whether the government of the source country and the embassies of the source country here in Kuala Lumpur really need to step up their role, in protecting the rights of their citizens working in Malaysia, and to also provide a safe space where they can gather, they can complain, get their voice heard in a safe space. So I'm just wondering, what other steps can we do to escalate and put pressure on the government for this, and employers as well, shameless employers, for change to take place?
Just to answer your first question, George, there's been a lot of work being put into organizing domestic workers for the past, I must say, for 3 to 2 decades. In fact, different efforts in the past at organizing domestic workers into unions and association. The first attempt was in 2007. However, it was rejected by the Registry of Society. Then again, we registered in August 2014, and it was rejected with no reason whatsoever given to us. But that did not stop domestic workers coming together. We became creative in our strategies together with different grassroots organizations, as well as supported by the ILO in mobilizing and organizing domestic workers, and in particularly the domestic workers from Indonesia and Filipino domestic workers. As you rightly said, the Filipino domestic workers seem to have organized themselves. In fact, it is something that they do back home and in different countries. And we use that as an example to use their strategies, being creative in bringing them together. The Indonesian domestic workers in Malaysia finally formed their own organization called Persatuan Pekerja Rumah Tangga Indonesia Migran, Pertimik, in December 2019. And there is also another organization from Filipina under the formation of Ampo Centro by Filipino domestic workers. So they are very, very organized. They have so many different programs. They are able to work with diplomatic missions of their countries, particularly the Philippines embassy, the Indonesian embassies, in organizing post-arrival programs for domestic workers. They've also been able to gather in different parts of the country to disseminate information on their rights, on arrest, detention, and deportation, in seeking assistance when one of their own domestic workers or people have been victimized in any way. So a lot of different efforts are taking place. However, nothing has been recognized formally. And in the past 2 years, they also have been able to push their agenda for increased protection with better terms and conditions of work at different platforms. As I said, though not officially, their successful formation gives powerful testimony to us all that nothing can stop domestic workers to organize themselves for changes. And also to respond to you in terms of what is available or what is there or what needs to be done by the diplomatic missions here. As you may already know, there is an MOU in place between the source country and Malaysia when it comes to the recruitment and placement of domestic workers, and to some extent, the employment of domestic workers. But nothing substantial is there when it comes to the protection of domestic workers. And when you say an MOU, it is just an understanding. It is not binding. And that is one of the most important issue to be addressed. What we need is a bilateral that is binding between the source country and the host country to protect the rights of migrant workers. In most of our experience, a lot of these terms and conditions, ad hoc policies are issued when something like Adelina's case is exposed, is highlighted. It is really not within the political will of these countries that there needs to be an increased protection mechanism in place for all domestic workers. I hope that I could answer some of that question that you had asked.
Thank you so much, Glorine. These are all very important information for us, and I really do hope that that the Women's Tribunal and what's coming up and following up the Women's Tribunal, that we can support the work that you and other NGOs are doing in really getting this legislation passed, on to protect the rights of domestic workers. Thank you very much, Glorine.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaina, and thank you once again, Glorine, and thank you for your amazing work.
Thank you, Grizel. Thank you
you
so much.
I'd like to announce that this is going to be the last round of the witnesses before we move on to lunch break as well as the advocate statement. We have 3 testimonies left, and I'd like to take this opportunity again to remind the audience in Zoom that we do provide interpreters. Just click on the interpretation function and you may select your preferred language. Yes. Moving on, we are now at witness number 24. She will be here live with us, and her name is Indira Gandhi from Ipoh, Perak. I'd like to now invite Indira to share her testimony with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, judges. This is my testimony. My name is Indira Gandhi, and I've not seen my daughter Prasanna Diksha for 13 years. It all began on 31st March 2009, when my ex-husband Muhammad Ridwan Abdullah took her away from me after an altercation in our home. He had an argument with my mother and sisters. He then assaulted all of us and grabbed my youngest 11-month-old Prasanna and left on a motorcycle. We went to make a police report to look for my daughter, This is when we learned that my ex-husband had converted to Islam. I had no idea that he converted. To make matters worse, he had used my children's birth certificates to convert all three of them. I was devastated to hear that my three children who were born into our Hindu family were converted without their presence and my consent. My ex-husband then went to Sharia courts to obtain custody over them. My daughter, Devi Darshini and Karan Dinesh, were converted to Islam without being physically present. They were 12 and 11 at the time and living with me. I too went to court, as I believed that as a mother, I had the right to be consulted before my children were converted. Since 2009, I have been going to court to seek justice. I have only seen Prasanna once.
Then the food must be should be there in about 10 minutes.
Sorry, Glorine.
I ordered because I don't think I can
Hello,
come back on
sorry,
time.
Glorine. Would you be able to mute? Thank you. You may continue, Indira. Indira, sorry, you are muted. Okay, please proceed.
I have
Thank
only
you.
seen Prasanna once when I was at the Ipoh High Court. When she was 1.5, she was there. I haven't seen her since. It has been 12 years. I have made more than 20 police reports, including assault on me in the past decade. But nobody has been charged. In 2015, the Court of Appeal verdict gave me some hope. It gave me custody of Prasanna, and the General Inspector of Police, IGP, was instructed to locate her whereabouts, but they couldn't find her. On 29 January 2018, the Federal Court ruled that unilateral conversion of children to Islam unlawful. Yes, I won. We won, but my search for justice is not over. Even after this landmark judgment and a court order to find my daughter, the police have been unable to find her. I am devastated that a judgment from the highest court in the country can be so bluntly ignored. I can't move on from this. So much of my time has been spent in courts, numerous press conferences, seeking help from the police, and nothing has been done. Having no other legal means, I decided to sue the IGP and Home Ministry last year, 2020, for negligence. The police claim that they know where my daughter and my ex-husband are. They claim that they are arranging a meeting somewhere in Thailand, and yet the IGP has not revealed details of Prasanna's whereabouts. In addition to the pain of not being able to hold my daughter, I have faced severe financial difficulties as I was unable to remain a 9-to-5 job due to the demands of the court cases. I am now working as a tutor. I cannot be attached full-time due to my schedule as I need to travel from Ipoh to KL for court cases. Prior to this, I had to frequently change kindergartens and employment due to leave. I had to put my 2 children through school and university. They have graduated now and also look after my aged mother. My ex-husband had also bought a car in my name in 2005 and defaulted in loan repayment, abandoning the car in Thailand 3 years later. This affected my credit score and I had to declare bankruptcy. I wasn't allowed to open a bank account and my card was frozen for a long time. This issue was only resolved early this year. The impact was huge on my 2 older children who were stolen of a normal childhood. I was so afraid of them being taken away for a long time. I wouldn't let them play with other children or out of my sight. They lived with my relatives in a different state for about a year, with Prasanna was forcefully taken away. They were also often questioned in school by their peers over religion, with other children asking my daughter to pakai tudung and harassed by others because of the case. Tevi and Karan were afraid of being taken away by the Jabatan Agama for a long time and had to be absent for school for 3 months. In 2009, my elders sat for UPSR under a lot of pressure, and having had missed school, it was a traumatizing for them. I believed that this was not a religious issue. It would have been settled amicably a long time ago. We could have followed a proper family court system where the family could have sat down and talked. I cannot come to terms with the kidnapping of my 11-month-old child. She was still breastfeeding. She's almost a young woman now, 13 years old. That is depressing because she doesn't know her mother. No mother should go through what I have gone through. Legally, financially, emotionally, we cannot have unilateral conversion. The system must be built and changed in Law and Reform Act. And I desperately hope that something is brought or tabled in Parliament. Through this tribunal, I hope that law and reform is seen as important to set a precedent judgment for minorities and mothers such as myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Indira, for sharing your testimony. Please stay with us while now I invite judges if you have any questions to Indira.
Good morning, Indra, and thank you for being with us and sharing your very painful story. I just have one question before I make any further comments, and that is, you said in your testimony that when Prasanna was snatched and taken away at the age of 11 months, you did go to make a police report and you found out your children had been converted.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how did you find out they had been converted? Who informed you? Was it the police or did any religious authorities bring that information to you? Just tell us how you found out about that, please.
Yeah, on the night of 31st March 2009, when my ex-husband forcefully took away Prasanna, it was very devastating. My sisters and my mom and myself had to be at the police station to give police reports. The whole night we were there. The next morning, the police officer called me to give a statement. As I went there, I was there for a long time, so I had to ask the police officer, what is going on? Why my ex-husband is not there? And I said, I need to see my daughter there. The police officer just told me that, oh, I did call your husband. I said, no, you called somebody in a Malay name. That is not my husband. And to my shock, that she told me, don't you know that your husband has been converted to Islam? And that was the first time that I know my ex-husband was converted. And to my surprise, another bombshell was that all my 3 children was just converted on that morning without my consent. And yeah, that was really shocking till today. That is how we came to know that.
Thank you for telling us that. I just want to say this to you, Indra. You have the law on your side, you have court cases on your side, but in spite of that, for 12 long years, you're continuing to suffer pain and hardship over this problem. I have great admiration for your tenacity and the perseverance and the love for your child that keeps you going. I really appreciate that. But I want to make one last statement before I end, and that is Malaysia is now a member of the Human Rights Council, and they must display more exemplary human rights compliance when they're sitting on the council. We've had, and we will continue when we finish in this tribunal, we will have at least 26 testimonies of women who have been suffering pain and anxiety in some form or other. And I'm hoping that you're coming out here and telling us will create further awareness in this country about the violations of women's rights. You have created tremendous awareness. Everybody knows about your case, but it's not bringing a solution to you in spite of that. But I'm hoping that this tribunal will further create such a strong awareness that it will impel the Malaysian government as it sits on the Human Rights Council and reviews human rights compliance of the rest of the world about the need for greater human rights compliance in our own country, in their own backyard. I hope this tribunal will help to do that. And with all my heart, I wish you a speedy resolution to your problem, and you will hold Prasanna in your arms again.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for highlighting this case. I know women in organizations, sisters in Islam, and all the women NGOs are helping me throughout all these 12 years. They were very supportive and still crossing fingers to see Prasanna one day. Thank you, judges.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Indira. And we are all with you. Thank you so much, Shanti, as well.
Thank you, Grazel.
Thank you. We have reached the second last witness for today, witness number 25, and her name is Lata. For her testimony, she has prepared for us an audio recording. We will play her recording now.
Nama saya Lata. Saya seorang bekas pekerja seks dan aktivis. Ayah saya meninggal dunia semasa saya hanya berumur 5 tahun. Saya dibesarkan oleh ibu saya. Dia bekerja sebagai buruh bina untuk mencari makan bagi 5 orang anak. Pada usia 10 tahun, saya mula bekerja sambilan. Pada mulanya di kantin sekolah saya dan kemudian di tempat lain untuk membantu menyarai keluarganya saya. Semasa saya di tingkatan 3, saya dihalang daripada pergi ke sekolah sebelum pemeriksaan akhir tahun saya kerana abang saya mencaki saya menjalinan hubungan. Selepas berhenti sekolah, saya mula bekerja sebagai pekerja membersih kontrak di satu pusat pameran. Pada masa itu, seorang lelaki berusia 17 tahun yang bekerja sebagai pengawal keselamatan mendekati saya dan melamarkan saya. Tetapi keluarga saya membantah kerana dia nampak macam pengguna dadah. Saya bersetuju untuk berkahwin lari dan kami mengadakan upacara mengikat tali yang ringkas di hadapan gambar dewa. Ia tidak rasmi dan saya baru berusia 15 tahun. Kami tinggal di rumah keluarganya bersama dengan ibu bapa dan adik-beradik di satu ladang kelapa sawit di Selangor. Dalam masa 3 hari bersamanya, dia mula memukul saya dan menjadi kasar setiap kali keluarganya mengadu tentang saya. Dia akan mendera saya secara fizikal, lisan dan seksual. Dia juga mempunyai banyak hubungan sulit. Semasa saya berumur 16 tahun, dia memaksa saya menonton ketika dia melakukan hubungan seks dengan wanita. Dia pernah memukul saya dengan dahan kelapa sawit berduri sehingga saya lebam hitam biru. Kerana tidak tahan lagi, saya juga pernah cuba membunuh diri dengan meminumkan minyak urut. Tetapi saya diderakan dengan lebih teruk lagi kerana cubaan membunuh diri saya. Saya tidak dapat peluang ke pengkuan keluarga saya apabila dia memukul saya kerana mereka mengata bahawa saya telah memilih perkahwinan ini dan saya terpaksa menanggungnya. Semasa kehamilan pertama, ketika saya berumur 18 tahun, mengikut adat saya pergi ke rumah ibu saya dan tinggal di situ sehingga anak saya dilahirkan. Tetapi suami saya menghilangkan diri. Saya terkejut dan tidak dapat menghubungi walaupun untuk memberitahu saya sudah bersalin. Dia berkelakuan begini semasa kesemua kehamilan saya. Semasa saya mengandung dengan anak kelima, dia mendera saya di hadapan orang ramai. Saya membuat keputusan untuk meninggalkannya dan balik ke rumah ibu saya. Pada masa itu, ibu saya meminta saya menggugurkan kandungan dan dia telah mencuba pelbagai cara tradisional tetapi tidak berjaya. Dia risau bagaimana saya akan membesarkan seorang lagi anak sedangkan untuk memberi makanan kepada 4 anak pun sudah hampir tak mampu. Saya bersusah payah untuk menambung kehidupan dengan gaji yang tidak beberapa bekerja sebagai pembersih jalan. Saya pulang ke rumah ibu mentua saya untuk meminta wang untuk membantu